All right, welcome to the final lab video of the lesson this week. So just to kind of recap, we've created a server on Rackspace here, and we've already SSH'd into it in our terminal window, and we're ready to start making some things happen with this. But just to demonstrate here, let me copy this IP address, and let's try to enter this into a browser and see what happens. So you can see that when I enter this IP address into the browser, which you can do, you can enter the IP address of any website and it should return that website or something very similar. If we had a web server running on this particular server that we have set up, we would get a response from this request. But you can see it says, oops, Google Chrome could not connect to 198.61.2222.89. And that's because there is no web server to connect to. So we need to change that. So let's hop back into our terminal here and start making some things happen. So the first thing we need to do is make sure the system is up to date and that we have all the most up-to-date things we need, software to run the server properly. So we talked a little bit in the lecture about aptitude or apt-get, and this, just by typing apt-get, it'll kind of spit out all of the different commands you can use and also the different options. So the first thing we need to do with apt-get is to update things. And so if we issue the command apt-get update, it will go through and it will update all of these repositories. So all these things that you see here are all public repositories of software available for this version of Ubuntu. So by typing, where do we go here, apt-get update, we are telling apt-get update to update all of its references to different software packages. So this isn't actually upgrading any software on our machine. This is just updating all the pointers to that software so that when we go to install software later on, we're getting the most up-to-date versions of everything. Now, the last thing you can do, just to make sure you are where you need to be, is I typically run an apt-get upgrade at this point. And what that will do is that will go through and look at all the current software installed on the machine, and it will make sure that it's all up to the most recent version. Now, you don't necessarily want to do this when you have a full stack server built out and you have possibly specialty software in there, as it might break something. Typically in Ubuntu with apt-get, you rarely run into that problem. Right now we don't have anything on this server, so it doesn't really matter. So we want to start out with everything up to date. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And what the server is doing now is it's just going through and downloading updates to all of that software. And this shouldn't take too long. There's not a ton of stuff here, but you can see it's already downloaded everything, and now it is going through and extracting the packages and building everything onto our system, updating everything. So this is essentially the Linux version of the software update that you might run on your Mac or on Windows, and it just goes through and make sure everything is up to date and where it needs to be. So we'll let this finish here, and then we will move on to setting up our web server. Okay, if you get this message that comes up about a boot grub menu, go ahead and keep the local version currently installed. We don't want to mess with any changes that Rackspace may have made, so make sure you just say keep the local version currently installed if you come across this message. Okay, so that finished. That took kind of a long time. Sorry about that. It might take 5 or 10 minutes for that to fully complete, but what we're left with when we're done is a fully updated and upgraded system, kind of a nice base image and ready to go. One thing I might recommend here, you don't necessarily have to do it for this, but as we move further down the semester, you might want to make an image of an already updated server. That way you don't have to go through this every single time you create a new server. So baseline, we're good to go. So we can start, we want to start installing a web server now to get this Hello World application up. But before we do that, I want to do a run through a quick couple of commands. So we talked about two main commands in the lecture earlier that you're going to be using a lot. So the first one is cd, or change directory, and it's how we navigate around the operating system. So right now we are in the home directory. So if we type cd tilde, that'll take us to the home directory, and that is where we currently are, so it doesn't take us anywhere. Now if we want to see what is inside of the directory we're currently in, we can use the ls command. And nothing is returned there because there's nothing inside of the home directory. And we can even verify this by using the -al flag, which is kind of an extended version of the ls command. And as you can see here, there is actually files inside of that directory, but they're all hidden. And you can tell they're hidden because they have this dot in front of them, often called dot files. And these files are typically configuration, and that's exactly what they are here. .ssh and .profile, .bashrc. These are all configuration files for our terminal, for SSH, and things like that. We're not going to get into this stuff right now, but I just wanted to make you aware of the different views you get when you use the ls command. And you can do ls-h, or ls, I think it's help, or no, excuse me, man ls will give you the actual manual on how to use it and what all the different commands mean. So if you're interested in learning, you can check that out. And again, that's just man ls to get that. Now, another trick I want to show you guys that will become really important as you move forward with this stuff, and that is using your up and down arrows. So I'm not typing anything right now. I'm just using my up and down arrows. And what this does is it scrolls through all the commands that you have typed. You can see all of the commands by using the history command. And so you can see all the different commands that we've issued in the last, in this session, basically, including the last one that wrote out all the commands. So you can use history to find old commands, and you can also use the up and down arrows, which will essentially scroll through that history. Another interesting thing that you can do is use your tab key to autocomplete fields. So say I want to go to the etc directory. I happen to know that that's at the root, and now if I start typing E and hit tab, it'll tab it out because etc is the only directory with an E starting with it. So it automatically knows that's what I'm talking about. So let's change into the EC directory and list all of our files in there. All right, so you can see that's a lot, but let's just go into something. So again, I can go CD, let's go X and hit tab, and there you go, XML. So the tabbing becomes very important as if you had to navigate through long blocks or long chains of directories, because it autocompletes, so you don't have to type everything. And that's the name of the game here. We are going to be doing a lot of typing in this class, and we want to limit how much we do. We don't want to be repeating ourselves, and we don't want to have to be typing the same old commands over and over and over again. So save yourself some trouble, use your up and down arrows, and use your tab key to autocomplete. And you will be a much, much happier person. So another trick with our CD is, so right now you can see we are in the root ECT directory. And what I mean by root is when you see this / here, that means that's the base of the server. So there are no directories above that. That is C:\\. That is the root of your file system. So we are basically in the etc directory, which is at the root of the file system. So if we wanted to get just to the root of the file system, we could do cd ... space ... which will take us back one level. And now you can see that we are at the root of the server. And so these are all the main directories at the root of our server. And if we want, we can get back to the root home directory by typing cd tilde. And that'll take us back to our home directory, as you can see here. So let's get a web server installed. So we need to go back to our apt-get, except we're going to use a slight variation of that command. We're going to use the apt-cache command. And we're doing this because we want to search for a package name. So let's type apt-cache search Apache and see what we come up with. Okay, so lots of stuff here. So let me scroll back up to the top and see what we have here. So lots of Apache stuff. It's a big, let's see. It's a big software package, so there's lots of different things that have the word Apache in it. What we are looking for is Apache 2, the HTTP server meta package. And this will get us everything we need to get Apache up and running on our machine. So let's remember Apache 2 and scroll back down here. And now we can issue our apt-get install. So before we were using the update and upgrade commands. In this instance, we're going to use the install command, and we are going to pass it the package we want to install. So apt-get, install, and the package you want to install. So it'll go out and find it. It'll ask you if you want to continue, and the answer to that is yes. And it will go through and unpack, download, and install everything you need. In fact, it will even start up the server for us. And you can see right here that it did that. So Apache 2 starting web server Apache 2. Okay, so because the web server is running now, we should be able to go back to our browser that we did at the beginning of this video and refresh this. So remember, this is our IP address here. Now if we refresh this, now I have something. Now the server has a web server on it, and it knows how to respond to these requests. So in response to me issuing a GET request to the root of this IP address, the server is coming back and telling me that it works, and that it's going, that something's happening now. And this is good. This is basically a web server. We've just built a web server. In that small amount of time, we've built a web server that is capable of serving any HTML document that you throw at it. So let's clear here. Now, one last thing I want to show you guys before we quit for the week, and this is going to lead into your lab assignment, which is explained below. I essentially want you to do this on your own. I want you guys to set up your own server and get the Hello World going. But I want you to go one step further, and I would like you to actually change this text. So you're going to need to go in and dig out some of your HTML skills, and you're going to change this text to say something different. Hello world, just anything other than what it currently says. And I'm going to give you a couple clues as to where you can find those files. So Apache by default stores its index in its HTML files in var www. So I will give you guys one guess as to where that file might be, but I think it's pretty clear where it is. There's only one file in var www, and I can pretty much guarantee you that whatever is written out here is probably written in that index.html file right there. So one last tidbit of information you'll need to know before you'll be able to do this is how you actually edit that file. This is all well and good, but we're in a terminal. How do I get inside of that file to edit it? And there are a bunch of different text editors we can use in Linux, the easiest one for this type of thing is going to be the Nano text editor. So if we type nano and then the name of our file, and you'll notice I'll just type IND and then hit tab, and it will autocomplete that for me. So if we type nano index.html, you can see that now we're in a little text editor here. And now we can go into our HTML and we can change this to hello world. And then we can come down here and we can see if we want to exit, we can just go Control X, and it's going to ask if we want to save before we close. The answer is yes. And file name to write to, index.html, is fine. So now we've saved that index file, and now if we go back to Google Chrome, we have our hello world. So that is web servers in a nutshell. We are going to be doing this a lot in this class over and over and over again, and with increasing levels of complexity. So this is a very, very basic web server that just serves static HTML files. It's completely unsecured and would probably be compromised on the web within a few days of being out there. There isn't really much keeping anyone from getting into this server besides a few passwords. So throughout the semester, we're going to work on refining this process, making our servers more secure, and really tapping into the full set of features of both Apache and Nginx to help you guys figure out how to better serve your websites. So that's Hello World. Check down below for all the notes from these lectures along with your first lab assignment. And as always, let me know if you have any questions. We will see you guys on the video next week.